Today I want to compare my custom Wheeljack to the legacy Wheeljack and see who did it better, whether my custom is better than the official version. So here they are. I should say first off, I did do a little repaint of the standard legacy Wheeljack, and I kind of messed up the gold on his face a little bit. It's a little chunkier than I would have liked. But you can see I colored it more like his artwork, and I took out the black because I think the charcoal or the dark gray actually looks better. I think the black just kind of doesn't fit. I think the black looks okay on his body, but on the head it was just like too much, just having the two-tone white and black. And then the custom has a lot of different things I did with this guy, so I did kind of the same thing. I didn't finish painting the white on his head, but he does have, it's hard to see because of his brow, but he does have nice metallic blue eyes now. Okay, there, if I angle it up, you can kind of see. And I kind of flattened out his eyes. It was kind of an accident, but it does look like he has irises, so that actually looks better. He's got like sensors in his eyes now. And then I painted the tires black because the charcoal color didn't really quite work. And I painted his Autobot insignia, just the panel lining. So that's all for the paint work on this guy. And then the big amount of work on this guy I did was for the articulation. So this is the standard Armada figure, but I fixed all his articulation. So he's now got a ball joint neck, so he can look up, which looks a little peculiar because he's missing like some neck pieces in there I didn't quite put in yet. But he can look in all directions, no problem. So he's got a very expressive head now. And then I gave him these ball joint biceps, which are the little Lego ball joints. And that tends to work fine, except for his shoulders are very stiff. So like moving these shoulder joints sometimes can just cause these to pop off. But that mostly works. And then this Armada figure, I don't understand. He's got, this wrist was always articulated, but for some reason this wrist wasn't. I don't know why they designed the figure that way. It's very bizarre. So I decided to go ahead and give this wrist articulation too. And you can see what I did. I just put like a Lego shaft in there and glued it to his fist. And then it's pretty deep in his forearm, so it's got a nice swivel now. So now he's got two swiveling fists. And then he's got these ball joint hips. And I'm probably going to have to replace these ball joints because these tiny ones are just a little bit too weak for how much weight he holds. They're just a little bit too soft. So now he can do a full or mostly full forward kick, backward kick. He's got some outward motion, but his hip skirt is kind of interfering with that. And then I replaced where his knees are. They're now here. He used to have a whole separate knee joint, but now it's just this, just to make him look a little bit more natural when he's doing a sitting or running pose, I guess. And then his toes and his heel, I'm just pointing down a little bit more just to give him a little extra height. And you can see that makes his proportions pretty nice. And then these are just styrene, so they're just in there as filler for right now, and then a little bit here because otherwise he's got a really hollow leg. And then in the future, it would be nice to have like leg covers back here. You could easily do that the same way this figure does with these shin covers. So I could do that same kind of thing just to fill out his leg better. But yeah, so that's all the mods I did to this guy, which ends up being a lot of articulation mods. And I think you'll agree his proportions look pretty great. And then we come back to this figure. I think this figure just looks a little too stocky and his shoulders are too wide apart. And then his doors here, like behind him, just the way this guy transforms, these doors are in a really bad place. It just makes him look like a block. I think if these door wings actually folded back like the original figure, it would actually make him look a lot more sleek and he would look a lot better if these would just fold back here and become wings, because you can kind of almost cheat it where if you leave these out and you kind of just put his body back down, they get in the way of his arms, unfortunately. But if these could have like folded out back here, and you can also peg these in, you can kind of get his wing look if these doors would have had one more hinge up here to go up, but he can't do that. It's just kind of ugly. So not great. It sort of works. And then let's get a 360 of my custom. Okay, so here's a 360 view of him, and I think he holds up pretty good. You can see he's still got a lot of gaps and hollow spaces in him. You can just see right through him. In that area, you can see it's just air. But I think he generally looks pretty good. He holds up pretty well. Of course, I lengthened him a little bit because he was kind of stubby in his original mode with long ape arms, which was a problem for Armada. But I think this fixes a lot of his proportions. So as far as looks go, I think my custom wins on the proportions. It just looks better than this. This just makes it too messy, these little black blocks back here. And his arms are just a little bit too wide. Whereas now that this guy's been lengthened out, his arms are like, his shoulders are in a perfect spot. And then if we're talking about likeness to the original character, I did mistransform this guy so his shins would be facing forward. I think they messed up a lot on this guy. They could have made his feet fold out here. It would have been easy enough because and then if you just cut this plastic right here, he could actually have like his knee joint could be here, no problem, and he could just have a foot that folds out. It's like one little bit of tooling they could have added that would have improved this guy. Plus, if we're looking at like the head sculpts, I think the original figure's head, let's see. I think the original figure's head holds up pretty well. Let's try to get these guys. Yeah, the original figure's head just looks kind of better to me. This one looks a little bit squeezed. It's probably because I'm just so used to looking at this one. This one probably looks fat. This one I think they did a really good job with the eyes. This one actually looks more like the animation model. But I think this one looks more like some of the artwork. And I think this one's actually a cooler head sculpt. This one just looks, I don't know, there's just like too much going on. It's not as clean as this one in some ways. As far as like the slashed symbol, they both look pretty much identical. I couldn't say one's better than the other. They both look really excellent. And then obviously the new Decepticon logo is nice and clean, whereas this one is just a mess, but it's more visible. This guy, I still think the original Armada figure wins because he has these tires on the shoulders, which is a big part of the character. And the biggest thing is these door wings. I think this is like a defining feature of this character. It's kind of like a cape. It's very imposing looking. And this figure just doesn't have that. It just is missing. He's lacking. And I don't know. I didn't watch the show so much, so I don't know how often he had his door wings deployed. I think technically you could fold these up. His shoulder's getting away a little bit, but you can actually close these up and clean up his look a little bit. It's still a giant car chunk on his back, but I think that also looks very good. Yeah, so I think the Armada just wins. I think the custom is better. As far as scale goes, this guy's not going to scale with anything, unfortunately. We can see that scale doesn't really work. He's maybe bulkier than Starscream even. He looks more intimidating, and he's almost as big as Megatron. Like, it's not very realistic. Obviously, this guy just fits in the Legacy scale much better. But I also made this custom Starscream a while ago, and I think this Starscream pairs perfectly with him. It's more like MP class, so this is like more of a masterpiece size car, but I think they go together really well, and these two go together really well. I think this Starscream looks awkward compared to the one I made too. I think mine's better as far as that goes. I think the custom wins, but I think they all look pretty good. It's just this guy is just missing too many things. And we can also get Cybertron Hotshot in here to just really destroy the scale, because like he's just so much bigger than Wheeljack, and he probably shouldn't be, and he's almost as big as the Armada one. He just really doesn't make sense. All right, and we'll look at the posability, but I just do want to show off that the The spring-loaded gimmick still works. It's a little bit messed up because the shoulders are in the way, but technically popping this button will pop out his shoulder wings or his door wings. And as far as the articulation goes, it's kind of a toss-up. The Legacy is better because he has ankle tilts in mine. I didn't bother making them. I probably could. It's just kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of done customizing this guy for now. So I probably could get those ankle tilts in there and probably help. I think the wrist swivels on this guy definitely improve how he can wield his Tonfa weapons. And as far as the accessories go, I think the new one, well, the new one wins having better Tonfas because the old ones had to have like that protection at the tip, whereas these ones have that like pointed kind of tip. And I remember from the show he would shoot out of these, which would be very awkward. And this guy, since he has like no wrist articulation, it would be hard for him to like pull off a decent shooting pose. And this one can't point his wrist either, so it'd be very awkward trying to have him shoot out of those. But I think the original Armada also wins because he actually comes with his Minicon, which I kept after all these years, as opposed to this guy who they decided not to package his Minicon, even though they made it. It's very bizarre. So yeah, this guy wins. He's got his Tonfas and he still has his Minicon, so better accessories. And as far as the paint, I could kind of go either way. I'm just used to the toy colors, so I really enjoy the charcoal and the yellow. But I saw the Japanese version, and I always liked that color scheme. But the Japanese version also had yellow on it, and this guy doesn't really have... He's got some of these gold accents, but it's kind of not the same. So it's hard to say. I think the Japanese coloring for the Micron Legends looks better, but I'm just kind of used to the yellow of the US release. So I'm kind of partial to this one. This one is just a little bit too plain, especially because the light blue is not really used that much. I guess it's used in the windshield, so I can't say that. But the light blue is kind of underused, and it probably needed one more accent color just to pull it off. The white and the black is just a little bit too basic, especially before I painted his head. I think it was just too plain. But yeah, so far I think the custom is ahead. All right, and then when we go to the alt modes, I think in this case the Legacy one does win. This is just such a cool looking car. It looks very nice. It's got a nice gloss to it. I really like the transparent windows, so that's really nice, and the weapon storage is pretty good. I think this one looks pretty good too. I think it's pretty cool how they integrated the weapon, and of course, just the car itself though looks very basic and uninteresting. It doesn't really have that much appeal to it. It looks just like a generic car. And then the cool thing is the Minicon does activate the door wings, which gives it kind of mask vibes. So that's pretty cool. So it's a little bit of a toss-up. I think the gimmick on this one is pretty cool. It's kind of ugly, and you can kind of fake it on this one anyway, which again, if it gave one more hinge back here, you could have convincing door wings. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to keep both because I want him to have a representation for scale, but I think this one is vastly superior in every way. And yeah, so that's probably where I line up on that. And I think if this guy comes out with an add-on kit that gives him his door wings, lets him have feet that are facing the wrong direction so he can have his normal shins, and probably gives him a Minicon, I think this guy actually might be the definitive Wheeljack. But they just cut too many corners. This doesn't feel like the character. He's missing too much. They really needed to give him his Minicon, have him transform correctly. The knee cut is already there. It really baffles me why they didn't just make these feet right here. And again, just putting a hinge here to make convincing door wings would have gone so much better. I probably would have just had this figure and got rid of the old one. But as it stands, I kind of need the old one because I feel like it defines the character a lot better. But anyway, that was kind of a long-winded, long review. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one.